Are you new to Linux? Then I recommend you avoid these 3 distros.
Number 3.
Arch Linux. Now, Arch Linux is not actually a bad distro. I think it's a great distro. But the reason that I've put it on this list is because it's what a lot of the Linux YouTubers use. So thus, it's naturally going to be what a lot of new users are going to get exposed to. But the thing is, it is not a distro that is good for new users. It's a distro that is made for power users, not new users. So, if you as a new user were to try to use Linux Mint or Arch Linux, then you're really diving into the deep end. Now, I will say, you can do it. People do it. And it will be a great learning experience if you pull it off. But in order to actually pull it off, you're going to need to have a lot of patience, a bit of a brain to figure things out on your own, and you're going to be spending a lot of time reading the wiki. So, for new users, it might be a very frustrating experience.
Number 2.
Ubuntu. It still blows my mind that Ubuntu had ads in the terminal, even though frankly they did pull back on that, so at least they did that much. They have a history of doing things like this. Ubuntu actually has, the biggest strike against them is that Ubuntu has some very serious privacy concerns, both through an integrated search in Amazon, in which they were selling people's data to Amazon, and the fact that snaps are closed source, so we don't actually know what they're doing really. The other thing is that snaps are really, in a lot of ways, just a more frustrating version. They're not as good. In my experience, they were much more frustrating to use. And the final nail in the coffin for Ubuntu is that everything Ubuntu claims to be good for, Linux Mint is just objectively better at. Linux Mint is more stable, more user-friendly, and much more pro-community because they don't do stuff like ads in the terminal.
Number 1.
MX Linux. Why? Well, first of all, MX is not actually as popular as DistroWatch would make you think it is. Instead, it's become popular through this sort of weird Streisand effect where people keep seeing it on DistroWatch as the number 1 distro, and then they don't know what it is, so they look it up, and thus they propel it higher up on DistroWatch, because that's how DistroWatch works, is through people clicking the pages associated with Linux distros on DistroWatch. That's how it does the ranking. The other thing is, too, is the distro, when you Google MX Linux, the blurb that comes up on the Google search literally says proudly anti-fascist, and one of the core developers is literally named Anti-Capitalista. The distro is run by people who consider themselves Antifa. Now, you might say to yourself, oh, well, I'm not a fascist, so why would that affect me? And if you actually think that, then you haven't had a whole lot of experience dealing with these people. These people will call you a fascist because they didn't like the way you flushed the toilet in the morning. So the reason I recommend that you avoid this is so that you can avoid getting caught up in any drama that they have when they decide to have their next community purge where they want to get rid of all the Nazis, and then they end up targeting you because you said that going to church with your grandma was kind of nice when you were a kid. Which, no, that kind of stuff like actually happens. So, don't forget to like and subscribe, and pray every day.